basically what you're seeing is a very tiny, minuscule sampling of what the collection represents. And there are over 6,000 items in the collection, puppets from around the world and the United States. And here we have badly lit, a small sampling of what you can find from Indonesia, China, United States, India, another Chinese puppet here, African, Taiwanese, and this guy was made by a very famous puppeteer named Kermit Love, who designed Big Bird.
Tell us a little bit about how old some of these marionettes are, and a little bit maybe where they came from.
Well, as I said, I labeled them as Indonesia, China, the United States here, India, another Chinese, an African, Taiwan, the 60s, and this was an American, Kermit Love.
Right. And then in the back.
In the back we have, again, the Santa Claus is a type of puppet that they call a Grand Turk.
Would you like to demonstrate that?
Can't exactly demonstrate because he breaks apart.
Oh.
He comes and becomes 5 different puppets. Each arm will become a separate character, and the Santa himself becomes a Christmas tree. The arms, the legs, and then it's 4 children, international children, dancing around the Christmas tree. As you can see, it's a rather complex stringing and apparatus, and so it takes quite a good time to reset it each time. That's why I'm not...
Is that manipulated by just one puppeteer?
One puppeteer,
Just
yes.
one puppeteer.
One puppeteer will end up working 5 small puppets.
One puppeteers.
Yeah.
It feels like it, but it's really quite simple, basically. A puppeteer known to possibly you, Mr. Zall, Rene Zendejas, developed this control for the Grand Turk. It used to be much more complex, but he simplified it and made this one of them. And it's a really, really good invention. Grand Turks came into play about the 1920s for vaudeville.
Oh, wonderful.
Where they got their name from the fact that it was a Turkish, like a sultan would come out, and he would pop apart, and there would be like 5 little blackamoors, or maybe little wives, so it showed what was in his harem or under his control.
And could you share with our viewers some of these puppets, what they're about?
We have a Sicilian knight, which weighs about 35 pounds. These are performed by very small Italian men with very large forearms. And it's possibly the loudest puppet show you will ever see. And there's lots of clashing against swords and metal.
How old would you say that marionette is?
This one is probably around 60 years old.
50 years old, still in great shape.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, look at you.
yes, I'm 100 years old.
Still there.
And now, who are some of these characters?
This was half of a tango team done for a cabaret act by a gentleman named Sky High Chief.
Oh, yeah.
A very talented artist who worked for the Hollywood Wax Museum.
Yeah.
Everything, a very wonderful sculptor. And this is part of his.
And he was a professional ice skater.
Yes. His real name was Ralph Emery. He went by a stage name of Sky High Chief. And Tony Urbano
Yes, Tony was very
did a comic portrait of Phyllis Diller.
We just lost Phyllis.
Yes, she just passed. I believe you knew her.
Yes.
And this is Christopher Columbus, by a puppeteer in 1935. He designed many of the floats, the original balloons for the Macy's parade.
Oh, no, wait.
Yeah, and he was based, and I should know the name should fall.
Well, that's all right. Now, I'm sorry.
The last one is a wrapper made by, it's a Russian artist who lived for 17 years in Israel and is currently residing in Toronto.
Oh,
He's all hand sculpted from Fimo. He's a one of a kind.
he's an Israeli rapper. Well, that's all very interesting. Mr. Golden, tell our viewers, how long have you been in the art of puppetry and how did you get involved?
Well, when I was 6 years old, I went to a place in Chicago called Kungsholm, and
Explain to
the
our
rest is
viewers
history.
what that is.
Kungsholm was a wonderful restaurant, a Swedish smorgasbord, and run by a man named Frederick Kramer. and you went to the restaurant, and as a complimentary thing with your meal, you got a ticket to a miniature grand opera, all executed with small rod puppets that were about 12 inches tall, about the size of a Barbie doll. The theater was a forced perspective reproduction of a European opera house, down to the red velvet chairs with the gold gilt edging on them. It was a wonderful experience. And take a 6-year-old, plop him down in an opera like that, show him Carmen with the appropriate amount of sex and violence and hooked on puppets.
And you traveled with puppet companies yourself.
Yes, I have.
And some of it, would you share that?
Bobby Clark.
Bobby Clark.
Bobby Clark, we toured the nation. Bobby Clark, I've toured with others. So
Bobby Clark,
I produced a show called Pinocchio.
Pinocchio. I saw
Played the Schubert theaters and all over the nation for many years. He was going to have another show. That one was operated from a 12-foot bridge. The puppets were bigger than this and operated from 12 feet above. And he was doing an Aladdin, which unfortunately only received a few performances, and that was from a 16-foot bridge. That was an even bigger show.
What do you think puppetry is going today? It's changed.
It's changed. I think it's coming back slightly because there are many films that are now using stop motion. Has become quite popular again. Stop motion is the same method that was used in King Kong, and now you have Frankenweenie, Coraline, Fantastic Mr. Fox. All of these make use of stop motion. There are shows on cable networks and on your local, like Oral, that uses a paper overlay for stop motion puppets, which is very unique.
And tell us about our friend, our very fine puppeteer by the name of Phil Huber. He's involved with a new Disney.
A new Disney project, yes. New project, Oz, the Great and Powerful. Phil Huber is currently, he has created the character of the China Girl. The new trailer for Great Powerful Oz just premiered last Wednesday, the Combat Club, the 10th of the month, and she is a major portion of the movie.
And how do people come and see your exhibits?
All they have to do, we have a facility that's located on Fair Oaks in Pasadena. We are in the building behind St. Barnabas Church at 1062 North Fair Oaks.
If they want to
And it's
contact you,
called by appointment.
and what is the telephone number for people to contact you?
Yeah, and they could just look us up on the web and contact us. Our website is www.puppetrymuseum.org, and you'll find all the details. And since we are a volunteer organization, so about to explain, we are only open 1 day a week or by appointment. So if your schedule doesn't meet ours, you can give a call and we can make an appointment for some of us to be there to see you.
All right, well, on behalf of everyone at the Puppetry Center, and of course my associate Sid Fish that does our interviews, we do appreciate your time, and we're looking forward to spreading the word about your wonderful exhibits and your facility, and hope that everyone will also share in the art of puppetry. This is Steve Zall with Beverly Hills Publishing, wishing you a very pleasant visit.